This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a midge on your friend with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or should I say lovely labs? I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to yarn about all things sexuality, womanhood, relationships, intimacy, holistic health, and everything in between. Your legs. Ooh, can't help myself. Anyway, we're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up, you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and have a bloody good laugh while you're at it. Before we dive in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's an absolute privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're ready, let's flap and do this. Oh my God, is there such thing as too many vagina jokes in the one intro? Whatever, it's my podcast. I'm leaving it in.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey gang, just before we jump into this episode, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to access my new mini course for free before I start charging for it in future. It's for people with vulvas and it's quick to complete. It's all about demystifying the female body and pleasure anatomy and getting some basic fundamentals to understand your body better. It's called Pussy Pleasure Secrets, Your Roadmap to Bedroom Bliss. You can grab it on the freebies page of my website or in the show notes. It's a great little free resource to kind of dip your toe in or act as a bit of a taster for my work. So if you've ever been curious about this sort of thing and you just don't know where to start, or you want a really quick, easy, accessible, non-threatening way to get the ball rolling and start working on this stuff, this is a great place to start. Hey, labial lovers, welcome back. So you may remember a recent episode about how I went to my first ever sex party, which was a pretty interesting experience for me, that I just had to talk about on the podcast, of course. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and check out the episode. I think it's called something like Vanilla Queen Goes to Sex Party. But as a result of that episode, I've been in touch with Kate, who actually ran the event and who was generously open to coming on the potty to chat about the ins and outs of actually putting on these sort of play parties, sex on premises type events, which I imagine is a whole thing. And there's probably so much that, you know, we couldn't imagine that goes into that. So a bit of background on the I guess, would you say events company, or I don't know, that Kate's started up called Virtue and Vice. So just launched in Melbourne and female driven, Virtue and Vice aims to reinvent the kink and sex party scene in Melbourne for a new era of uninhibited adult fun. Having forayed into the world of adult events, we saw the opportunity to create a new and exciting experience that focuses on making all guests, but women in particular, feel comfortable engaging in the scene in a safe and comfortable environment. With an emphasis on comfort, hygiene, and casual luxury, our goal is to create sexy, cultivated spaces for like-minded individuals to explore their desires with new and exciting performances to make your night unforgettable. Supported by our crew of glorious consent angels, we offer a welcoming and non-judgmental space to learn, explore, meet, and play. Virtue and Vice are kink and fetish friendly and welcoming to the LGBTQ+ community. Amazing. So welcome, Kate.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So excited. There was definitely a part of me that was a bit hesitant to do a podcast episode on this because I'm in very new territory for me. And then I was sort of thinking, oh gosh, I wonder how good of a job I'm going to do at describing, this sex party experience, given that I've only been to one, and it's so I was really wrapped that, and, I prefaced that on the original podcast episode saying, hey guys, I'm no expert. I've been to one fucking play party and this was the time that I had, but I'm so open to hearing about other people's experiences. And, so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to chat to you and pick your brains and hear your side of things and, and your experience in the scene and the industry. So I'd love just first of all to hear how and why you kind of got into putting on events like this. Maybe, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about the first ever play party you went to or experienced. You don't have to talk about that, but basically give me a bit of a rundown on like the kind of conception of all of this.
Well, first of all, thank you for talking about it, because you did so in such a glowing, wonderful way, which made us want to ask you all more questions about your experience, clarify a few little things, and just keep the conversation going. Obviously, everyone's experience is different, but it was really, really wonderful to hear yours, but particularly as someone who's never been there before and someone who managed to talk to people on the night who had been to lots of parties. It was really good to hear.
Cool. Yeah, I thought there might be some things you would be like, I want to set the record straight about that.
Me too, in the best way. I was like, oh, there's just a few things that we want to add.
Totally.
But so personally for the brand, it was actually conceptualized before the dreaded COVID. I started doing the research into what it took to put on an SOP party, as you said, a sex on premises party, because at that point there was a lot more sort of legislation around it. It's all changed now, but so I did all the research. It was hard to figure out to get to the right contacts to get the things we needed. And when I finally did get this guy on the phone but obviously it was his department, he goes, wow, it's been a little while since I've heard one of these, heard for a request for one of these. Obviously it didn't happen very often.
Wow.
And I suppose that was borne out by the fact that in Melbourne, I think at that point particularly, the same ones kind of were in existence and had been for some time. And I don't know that I'm talking almost 5 years ago, that they hadn't changed much. There weren't many new ones at that point. So we looked into it, and then obviously COVID happened and it all went by the wayside. And then we just got back into obviously normality, and the brand launched at the end of what are we in 2024? It's been going since the end of 2022. So
cool.
Which was exciting. So I finally bit the bullet and decided to go through with this idea that I'd had for some time. The reason it was launched was because, like you said, I had obviously been to a couple of play parties, and I just saw that there was a space in the market for an event that was much more cultivated in terms of the actual space that it was held in. Most of them are held in clubs, which is fine. That's a whole vibe, and it's worked for decades. That's happened in Melbourne for decades, and people love those parties. But I just thought, as a woman, personally, I wanted the ambience to be a bit sexier, a bit more comfortable. I know that sounds weird because it's such an uncomfortable space to be in, but a bit more comfortable. And I wanted it to be sort of like beautiful and intentional and things like that, and real, with a real focus on hygiene, because I think that's, men and women alike, but I think particularly women are conscientious of hygiene. I
Big
think
time.
so.
Yeah.
So that's the cleaner things are, the dirtier you want to get, is the way we put it.
I love that. Well, yeah, that was definitely one of my questions. And anytime you talk to anyone, that's one of their first questions is like, okay, so like how, like, is there a lot of vinyl? Like what kind of surfaces are there? And then how do you think they clean the place afterwards? So like, give us the down low on that side of things.
That was the exact question that sort of spurred us to do it a little bit differently, because obviously at clubs it's, on like Saturday night it's a club, and then the following Friday night it's a sex party. So who knows what goes on. But I think regardless of what happens, I think it's about what's seen to be happening. It's more about, for me particularly, maybe the hygiene's wonderful, but we don't see it, so we don't know. So for me, it was about our difference when it comes to cleanliness and things like that. Is we have So for a start, we have a much bigger space. So we have beds, and we have this beautiful bed linen, which gets checked and changed regularly throughout the night. We have towels. You don't have to, but you can grab a towel and throw a towel down. We've got wipes and things like that. It's all there. So our guests are seeing it in real time, seeing the hygiene happening. Just subtly, we'll pop in every now and then, quickly whip a sheet off, and, there's all protectors and everything, pop a new sheet on, and everyone goes, oh, it's clean, it's fresh, it's, and, you can put a barrier between you and the space and feel cleaner.
Big thing to have that peace of mind. That definitely would be a huge distraction for me in being present and just experiencing, pleasure and surrendering to that present moment. If I was like worried I was going to, I don't know, roll over onto somebody else's jizz.
Not ideal. Not an ideal aphrodisiac.
No way. Not a vibe. Okay. Amazing. So you kind of saw what was kind of pre-existing in the space. There wasn't heaps of different variety or choice. Maybe there was some gaps in the market that you thought I could do a better job of this, or I could do a different job that would cater to a slightly different market. What were some of the things you were maybe experiencing in the sex party scene that you, like, other than hygiene, that you wanted to like do better, or something that you wanted to bring to the culture of that scene that was lacking? Because I know, like, you would have heard in my episode talking about it, when I was chatting with some of the kind of veteran party goers, they were like, oh yeah, it really wouldn't be unusual back in the day, some of the parties we went to kind of just be going ahead with whatever you're doing, and some creepy old guy come and like jerk off on your back with no consent or something like that,
I know.
like. So obviously you're trying to do a better job.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I have to say that organically the scene has changed over time as consent culture has changed. Slowly over time it has changed anyway, but we do put it in a really, really big emphasis on consent. We have, as you mentioned, we have our consent angels, which is a concept that wasn't created by me. I can't take credit for that, but it's sort of newish in the scene. And they are basically a bunch of the most incredible humans. So they're vetted by someone who's on our team, just to make sure that you can't put 100% certainty that someone is the right person for the job, but you get a vibe on somebody, they get recommended by somebody else, and then they go through, we step through kind of our expectations for consent, what it looks like to us, and unfortunately, I guess it depends on how you look at it. There's a lot of grey area with consent, because in a situation where the music is loud, passions are high, unfortunately, someone's yuck looks like someone's yum. Someone's pleasure might look like someone's pain. So it's a really, really delicate balance, but they're just there to create like another layer of safety. If they see something that they can see is obviously wrong, someone's in distress, they can step in. But mostly it's just there so that, at the door, the guests get a little spiel. These are our angels. This is what they're wearing. They wear these LED angel wings. And if you need them, you can go to them and they can help you with any question you might have, anything you might have, not just about consent, about anything to do with the party, you can go to them.
Gotcha. Yep. I think I must have missed them somehow and just walked straight through, because there was an influx of people at the same time as I arrived, and I was all very confused about what to do and where to go. So I just ran to the toilets. But I did read on the event that there was the consent angels. So even, I guess, just the awareness of knowing that they're floating around. But I mean, what a tricky job, because, like you were saying, sometimes someone's yum looks like maybe yuck. But then I think the more dangerous way that could go is like someone having a yuck time, but, in freeze response or fawn response, or not actually looking like they're having a bad time because they're, I guess, going along with it and just sort of faking it. And it's like, well, how on earth would a consent angel be able to even pick that out, And I suppose with any sexual like environment, even if it's just two people at home on their own, like there's always going to be a risk of that happening where, you know, someone's going along with something that they don't want to do or they don't feel comfortable with, and they've, you know, so it's tricky to navigate, but I guess it's just such an intense space to have to hold, because there's just so much higher risk of consent violations or discomfort because of the scale of how many people there are, and it's dark and it's loud and everything you just said. So that's really like do you get nervous about that? It feels like a lot to kind of try to hold and navigate well.
We do. Obviously, people's safety is kind of like the most important thing to us, and we're very reactive. Like when something happens, you know, we've got a little chat that goes on throughout the night, and people, like all our angels, put all the information that, you know, this is what we've seen, this is what we're, you know, even just things we're flagging. I've seen this, might not be a problem yet, but, you know, all angels keep an eye out. We also operate under the, you know, this concept of dignity of risk, that people are here, they're adults, they have personal agency, they're making choices, and we are there to help. We're not there to, you have to let people do what they do to a certain extent. And just sort of be there ready to deal with something when it pops up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're not, you know, these people are adults with agency that have chosen to come to a sex party, hopefully because they're into that. And, you know, they have some okay communication skills and boundaries and everything like that. And I really loved seeing the kind of creative ways that could be, I guess, scaffolded with like the posters on the walls about the wristband system and things like that, which was really cool. That was like a new concept to me. So yeah, I'm loving hearing about the thought that you've put into the consent culture and just creating a safe space, because yeah, it does sound like it's not being done particularly well in some other spaces. So have you noticed you've attracted like a different crowd, or are there like, you know, is there this interesting, because with any new, I guess, like events business, like you're coming onto the scene, you're trying to create a particular culture around your events, which means you want to bring certain kinds of people, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like you're kind of not fully starting from scratch, because it's such a niche thing that, you know, people who enjoy play parties probably hear about a new one and are like, oh my God, cool. So do you kind of have, and, you know, I don't know, maybe you can't tell, I don't know how you would gauge this, but with regards to like the crowds you're drawing, the tickets you're selling, like, is there kind of an interesting combo of like, you know, the older play party goers, the veterans that have been going to like a different scene for years and are kind of set in their ways of how they behave? And I don't know, I imagine maybe an older generation probably, like, not, this is just, you know, an assumption, rule of thumb, tends to not be as on top of the like consent stuff. You know, they just grew up for a lot longer in the patriarchal systems than like the younger generation who, like, you know, I guess like my friend that's involved is sort of younger generation into like festivals and a lot of kind of more fringe, I guess, doof culture, consent culture, BDSM culture. How has it gone, like with the mingling of these different demographics of play party goers that all have the one thing in common, that they want to go to a sex party, but maybe have a totally different approach or different experience to it?
You're right. There's a whole different, a wildly varying guest, like a base of guests. We were lucky enough that there's sort of people we made contact with initially who have helped us create the party, like, and cultivate this thing that we've made, were really big in scenes where consent was really big. So it's sort of grown in communities that were really heavily based in consent, which is wonderful. I don't want you, obviously this is not a hard and fast rule, so I don't want to offend anybody, but as you said, you know, the older mindset in this scene was less about consent. It was less about, and it was a lot about, I've heard a lot about instances where someone would do something and then go, oh, is that okay? Rather than going, can I do X, Y, Z? Mm-hmm. And, you know, to us that just sounds completely abhorrent. But obviously back in the day that was kind of the thing that was done perhaps once upon a time. So there is still changing mindsets and changing cultures. Obviously, at all of these events, alcohol is served. That's another factor that adds just another layer of complexity to the issue. And, you know, what is consent? What does consent look like to you? What is someone's body language? Like, how well does each person interpret someone's body language and the way they're speaking and enthusiasm and things like that? So that obviously adds to our the complexity of the issue. But we do, like I said, we do have a good, really, really good base of people who are really, really strong into consent culture. We seem to be one of the parties that we span. You know, in Melbourne, there's kind of like the old school swingers. There's kinksters, obviously the BDSM and kink community, really, really heavily into consent and things like that, which is wonderful. There's sort of like a poly crowd, which we span that as well. We tend to find that there are wildly varying age ranges. So we, as you mentioned, we tend to be more like the 20s to 45, but that's certainly not the lowest. And, you know, there are 18-year-olds that come. So there's, different crowds, different age ranges, different genders, obviously. I've had some feedback recently after your podcast, actually, you know, chatted with people, and I was like, you know, we are like LGBT and queer friendly, and they go, oh yeah, but you're not like the most. And I'm like, okay, how do we do that? Because we look around, even at our group of angels, and they're so diverse. They are so wonderfully diverse, and it's about how do you, as a brand, how do you put out to the community that you are genuinely welcoming to everybody? And, you know, we think we're doing that, but we can probably do it better.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tricky though, because it's probably not a gigantic pool of like potential party goers that you're working with, because it's quite niche and it's not everyone's cup of tea. And then there would be a lot of like insecure, like fear, I guess, and apprehension about a newcomer, you know, coming in. I'd imagine generally people who haven't been to one would need a friend who's involved that would take them along, or a lover. And so, you know, you want to run a successful event and have a lot of people, because then it's more of a vibe. There's, you know, you sell more tickets. It's also more choice for the people in there. But at the same time, yeah, that kind of means that, I mean, yeah, I get the feeling, and, you know, probably someone will be pissed off and annoyed by me saying this, but all of my queer friends are basically like, you know, they don't actually enjoy an event unless it is like almost exclusively queer, not just queer friendly, because of course if it's queer friendly but it's just open to everyone, you know, queers are still a minority in the overall population, so of course that's going to be representative in the scene. But if it's like a queer specific event, then all the queers flock to that, knowing that there'll be lots of different you know, like diverse people that they can engage with, and it also just feels safer because a lot of them, like my friend calls oh my god, what is it? He's got this slang term that's like the straight version. Straggot. He calls us straggots, like a straight faggot. Yeah, and it's meant to be kind of playful, but like a derogatory but playful kind of slang to talk about like bloody straighties, you know, because they're very like fuck partying with like straggots and stuff, like, so, you know, I feel like it would actually be quite hard to make it as queer as the queer people want it to be without making it exclusively queer. But I feel like, I guess, as you know, you're quite fresh, as momentum gathers and word of mouth spreads, and, you know, you've got like these amazing like big venues that you're putting on the parties at, so it's like, yeah, there could be like a whole queer space within that, kind of like how you had the kink dungeon for the kinksters. Like you could, I mean, yeah, there'd be ways, but gosh, it's such a battle. You can't please everyone either. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. Hey, baby babes. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the potty to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook, and I'll see you in there. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, look, we're trying to be as open as we can and let. I mean, I suppose all you can do is kind of develop through our reputation that all kinds of people, all kinds of presentations, all kinds of what would you call it? The things that people wanted to get involved with are welcome. I mean, just as an example, someone mentioned in the chat that they had a friend who was like a male friend who was bi, who wanted to come, and they hadn't seen much of that, going on. They hadn't seen much of it going on. And would it be, if that was to happen, like two males engaging, like what would the vibe be? And the wonderful reaction from the angels going, we would kick out anyone who was saying, oh, that's great. Like obviously there are these perceptions about what you will face. And hopefully over time we can show that they're just not true, that anyone shown to be, being derogatory towards someone else is just not welcome.
Yeah. I think obviously you can't be everywhere at all times, but maybe something that I've found, because, sometimes people also find it hard to sort of speak up, and maybe hooking up with a male hooking up with another male amongst so much heteronormativity might not feel particularly safe, even though it might be, just it might feel unsafe. But what I appreciate that could be some kind of sort of something you can do is when I go to a bar or a venue, and on the back of the toilets there's just posters being like, if you ever feel unsafe, if there's any dickhead behavior, we have a zero tolerance policy, come and see someone behind the bar or a consent angel or whatever, you will be believed and we will kick them out. If I just see that, I automatically feel safer in a venue, because I know that the staff and the organizers are going to have my back, and that would encourage me, rather than maybe doing something and then if someone just looked at me or said something a bit judgy or made me feel unsafe in any way, rather than maybe just stewing on it and then moving into a different space or leaving, I would be like, do you know what? No, I actually know that I'm totally going to be encouraged to go and speak up about this, and I can go and so maybe even just some stuff. I think it's when the event's happening, there's only so much you can do. But if you've created this foundation, that's why we read out the whole kind of spiel of the event that Mark had written, because it was so great to kind of have the consent structure stuff set up first. And obviously not everyone's going to read it, and there'll still be some people that just buy tickets and rock up. But like you're saying with the consent angels giving the spiel at the start, it sounds like you're kind of putting these things in place before people come in, so that when they're in there, they know that they're held,
It's funny you say that, because I'm horrified to say that the one event that you went to, so we do have consent signage, and it managed to not make it up in the venue on that one night, which I'm ashamed to say is on me, because I'm the main girl. And everything stops with me, but we do have consent signage, and we're reworking it all the time. We're currently working on reworking it.
Oh, epic!
And adding more.
That's such a classic thing. I felt like doing the podcast and then hearing that you'd heard it, I had a moment of oh God, she's going to think I'm some mystery shopper that's kind of come in undercover to critique it, which wasn't the case, obviously. But so it's always the way, the one event that thing isn't there, the fucking bloody sex coach wanders in and does a whole podcast episode about it. All good. I think you're doing a good job, babe. Again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. On the people speaking up too, obviously we can't do anything once the event's over, which makes me sad, because we've had some feedback towards, someone will say to a friend who, and it comes back to us, usually an angel, feedback to us, oh, such and such happened at the event and they didn't tell anyone. And I just can't stress enough that you need to tell somebody. I understand why people don't want to. I understand why they're not comfortable, but they absolutely can at any point in the night. And part of our our action plan, I guess you'd call it, of how we deal with things is obviously in the first instance we make sure the guest feels safe, comfortable, come sit with us in this quiet area and we'll have a chat about it. And then we give them the option. Obviously we have the right to say to anyone, you're gone, catch you later. But we give that person the option to say, would you like us to do nothing and just keep it in mind? Would you like us to just go have a chat with this person and say, hey, this thing that you did has made someone uncomfortable. It's not okay. Can you learn from it and just don't and not do it again and try to empower people's knowledge to change and do better? Or we say to them, do you need them to go on? Is that such a violation that you don't think it's worth, trying to educate them and keep them there and we can get rid of them? And people tend to, like, everyone handles things differently. I'm someone who would be like, look, don't worry about it, I'm fine. But there are some people who obviously are not fine and that they want that person gone, and that's also okay.
I think that's so amazing, and that would be really awesome for people to, and maybe this is part of the consent angel spiel at the start, but if I knew that I was going to go, because I think sometimes, and this has definitely happened with me, like if something happens, especially women, we don't want to make a scene, we don't want to make a big deal, so we're worried about going and dobbing on them in case that becomes a whole thing, and then they get kicked out and then they know it was us that complained, and then we feel really anxious about that, and it's a whole drama. And sometimes we don't want the drama, so we just cop it on the chin and we don't tell anyone. So I think it's awesome that you are aware of that, and for the victim of whatever's happened, they get the choice to say, yes, I want you to do something about this and kick them out, or no, I just needed to tell you, can you keep an eye on it? But for now, I'm fine. Because that would encourage me 1,000-fold to come and say something if I knew that it wasn't all or nothing. It wasn't going to be like, I either do nothing or like I go and say something and it fucking wrecks my night or his night, or a whole big thing comes of it, and then I feel really like agitated because of that, and it's just stressful. So that's really like self-aware of you. I think
it's just because like we understand that everyone's different, and some people, like you said, they don't want the drama, they don't want they're like, I'm fine, but that person needs to know it's not okay. And then there are some people who are like, someone did something to me, I'm not okay, they need to go, and every end of that spectrum is fine.
Yeah, amazing, cool. Well, let's just segue into the segment Get Pregnant and Die, because then I've got a whole lot of more questions I want to ask you, but for now, do you have a sex ed story or anecdote for us?
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise?
I think it's got to be the quintessential. I don't want to age myself, right? But my sex education was a long time ago, long time ago, without aging myself. But I think this lack of knowledge on the part of boys who don't know that you can pee with a tampon in would be my.
Oh my God!
That's so you have to take it out.
Oh my God!
But how do you pee?
Fuck! I forgot that was something that, I remember a boy asking or saying that once years ago, but I'd completely forgotten that was, like a bit of a common assumption or misconception. That's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. Knowing the correct amount of holes, it seems so basic to me now. I can barely relate to like anyone not knowing that. But I guess like if you don't have a vag, like how are you going to know? I suppose. I mean, didn't pay attention in anatomy class. Wow, that was a good one. Thank you. That really tickled me. So what are like we've probably touched on this and stuff, but what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced trying to make this whole thing happen? Like, has it been a rocky road? Have there been like fires you've got to put out? Has there been resistance or backlash in any way? Obviously you talked about the legislation kind of changing, there being a lot of hoops to jump through and stuff, but like talk to me about like some of the hardships faced by someone just trying to put on a dope play party.
Oh, you can't even imagine.
I
look,
bet.
we got through it all, so it's all good. And like issues still pop up, and we're still rolling with it. But initially, like the logistics of it was difficult. Even just so I conceptualized this idea and the idea, like approaching the venue, and as you mentioned, we hold our sort of flagship event at the Melbourne Pavilion. And they were wonderfully generous enough to let us have it there, which is amazing because it's the most glorious venue and it really suits our needs. But even just like approaching that issue, the first email I had to send them to lay out, this is what I want to do in your gorgeous venue. And I honestly expected, not to be laughed at, but they obviously went with it. And then just the logistics of putting it together. Obviously, like I said, we bring in beds, we bring in furniture, all of this kind of decor and stuff because we want it to be beautiful and comfortable and stuff. So that was a mission. That's an ongoing mission, unfortunately, because we have to do it every time.
Yeah.
But I suppose the biggest issue was it is a small scene. Melbourne is a big city, but it is a small scene, and people were suspicious of us coming in, particularly because I'm very, very private and I don't put my name or my face to it. It's about V&V. It's not about me. So people were like, who are these people? What are they doing? What do they want in our community? And so trying to get the message out to people that we, like you said, we just want to put on a dope party. We want to make this beautiful thing for you. Was really difficult. So yeah, we had a lot of criticism and a lot of suspicion at the beginning. And we had some teething issues. We had an issue, a massive issue which I don't know whether you're aware of or not. It's with the photographer for the first event. We were sponsored, and the photographer, we had an issue with photos being posted without consent, which was devastating, absolutely devastating to us.
The photographer just posted them online, or what are we talking?
Yeah, so the photographer took them and the sponsors posted them. Let's not get to name names, but it nearly ruined us. That was our very first event, and that was the first image people had of us.
Oh no!
It was devastating, and like even just as a human being, like putting myself in the position of people who had their photos posted. Can't even imagine what that would have been like. So we cut ties. We had it all. It was all resolved, and we have managed to, I suppose, earn back the respect of the community so we don't have any guest photography anymore at all. Which now that I think about it, like in hindsight, why would you have photographers there anyway? I get that some people are into that.
Do other play parties have photographers there?
They do, and you'll routinely be playing in the midst of play, and someone will pop a camera in face and go, "Can I take a photo?" And it's just it's mortifying.
Oh no!
But look, some people are down for it, Priya. So I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. But we decided after that first one, we still photograph because we have incredible performers and DJs and things like that. So we still photograph them, and we just ensure that there's no guests. So guest photography is off our agenda now, and I think people love it, honestly, because there's no fear that they're going to be caught in a photograph or have someone pop a camera in their face and go, "Hey, can I take a photo?"
Totally. Just a bit less risky. It's like, of course, like some people, especially the people on the more exhibitionist side of things, would love, the photography element and then having those photos and like how hot, but like so tricky to navigate, especially for that photographer, like knowing when it was welcome and when it wasn't and when to interject. And I don't know, if I would feel very like unable to relax if there was a photographer floating around. And that like made me remember I was kind of, cause I just didn't cloak my stuff. I had a friend who had a little stage set up. So I just put my jacket behind the stage and stuff like that. And I was wondering, cause I had my phone in there, and at one point I wanted to check the time, but I just felt so like, oh, no, it feels like I shouldn't get my phone out, even though I'm not going to take a photo. I don't think anyone would want to see a phone present in here. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if I was supposed to like check that at the door or something, or whether there's like rules around phones. And because I've definitely been to events where there's nudity involved or something, and you have to kind of like check your phone at the door, or like, are we just relying on like a trust system, people not being dicks and not like getting their phones out at this event?
A bit of both. So we do trust that people won't do it, you are allowed to have your phone on you. Obviously, we live on our phones. We text our friends, where are you? I'm in the toilet, even all of that stuff. And I don't know, we just live with them on us. So we don't feel the need to take them away completely. There are no phones at all to be used in the play spaces. Again, there's usually signage, unfortunately. But yeah, we have found that just people are just very respectful. There are spots to take selfies, so we set up. We've got the big neon that says "We," and there are other spots that we say that are safe to take selfies. When there's a wall behind you and no one's around, we say to people, just be careful. No, don't get anyone else in your photos.
Cool.
And historically, people have been really good about it. I think because there's just this general notion that if you misbehave, you don't get to come back. You don't get to do this fun thing that everyone wants to do. So people are generally pretty good. I know there have been occasions where, someone snapped a photo and an angel might have gone, oh, hey, can I just have a look at that and just make sure you've got no one else? And people go, oh, yeah, sure. So people are really good at it. The angels are really on top of it. Even the security are really on top of it. We've worded up the venue security, they're on top of it. And people are really good about it. And again, dignity of risk. Obviously, we can't control everyone's behaviour, but if we set the expectation and police it as best we can, we're trying to minimise the risk.
Totally. What about because when I was there, I was like, wow, I wonder what this venue normally kind of does, and if they've ever had a play party here, and I wonder how they manage to be open to it and stuff like that. And then I was thinking, oh, there's a bar here. Are these bar staff people that they've brought in because the regular bar staff would be really weird or untrustworthy or not vetted or whatever? Or have the bar staff just been briefed hey, I know that usually we have martial art fights going on in here, but tonight we're having a sex party and weddings. Oh my God. Yeah. So very, very different. Did you just have to brief the bar staff? Did you bring in your own kind of caterers? How does that work?
So they are venue staff. They were briefed by the venue beforehand. They were explained what it is, what's going to happen. And there was some teething issues. Because one of the play spaces, I don't know if you noticed, is quite close to one of the bars. So there's curtaining put up so that there's a barrier. We've said that there's no shenanigans to go on sort of near that barrier. They were all briefed, so it's their choice whether they want to come or not. And I think there was even an instance where someone arrived at work and went, oh, yeah, I can handle this. Saw it, went, well, I don't think I can. And they just went, that's okay. You can go home. Not a problem.
Cool.
So
cool.
Venue have been really wonderful.
Yeah.
And some of them dig it. Some of them are going, this is really cool, which is wonderful.
I would love that. Imagine you'd be like, I love my job. This is sick. That's just such an interesting kind of thing to get to be a fly on the wall and have an excuse to be there because you're working, so it's not as daunting as going and attending, but you kind of get to just sort of observe and be like, okay, this is another world, this is a thing that happens, am I into this? Maybe I should go to one. Yeah, that's cool. What else do I want to ask? So do you just have to get a forensic cleaner in afterwards?
They do some cleaning and we do some of the bios cleaning kind of thing, but people are generally pretty tidy. We make it easy for them to be tidy, so they're generally pretty tidy.
Yeah, cool. And I imagine just when you're selecting venues, it's kind of a consideration, you want more vinyl, less fabric upholstery, less carpet, or is it, because that's tough though, because I've always been oh fuck, all this, what really doesn't appeal to me about BDSM is the leather and the vinyl and the it's uncomfortable. I like soft fabrics and blankets and a comfortable mattress, and that's how I like to have sex. So I've always just been I don't know how I would go at one of these things because just practically they kind of have to have more cold, shiny vinyl surfaces or non-absorbent surfaces and stuff. So how do you strike the balance? And is that a consideration when you're choosing venues, things like carpet and furniture, or do you just bring all of your own shit in anyway?
We bring basically everything that the shenanigans happen on, we bring in. So there's a bit of everything. There's all the BDSM, vinyl, leather, timber stuff, and then we have, like I said, we have beds, couches, with covers and stuff like that. So there's a bit of something for everything. I'm with you. I like my thing is like soft, like plush, velvety kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the vibe of the boudoir. Is the event that you attended? It's called the boudoir. That's the vibe,
yeah.
and like beautiful jewel tones and like sheer curtaining, so there's a bit of privacy and stuff like that. So yeah, something for everyone.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Oh, love it. So was there anything that you heard on my podcast talking about my experience that you wanted to like speak on or elaborate on or set the record straight, or maybe something you cringed at, or have a different perspective on? Like, we've kind of touched upon a lot of it already, but just wanted to see if there was anything else that I'd missed or that you listened and you're like, oh, far out, Freya. Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster, and it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi.
I actually really surprised me when you said, oh, there was someone fucking in the toilets, because I was like, that's weird, because, you know, like, guys, I've brought you all this beautiful furniture. You don't need to have sex in the toilets, but also, I mean, if that's your thing, go for it. But funnily enough, I've never seen it.
No, I didn't say that. My friend Hannah, who interviewed me, was like, and then someone fucking, and I was like, no, I didn't say there was anyone fucking in the toilets. There was just someone in there with a strap on. Yeah, I didn't see any shenanigans going on in the toilets.
Right,
everyone. It's all above board.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Look, I mean, we're not going to kick you out if you do that, but it would be a weird thing to happen, because there's so many nice places to have them if you know.
Totally.
Yeah. I think the thing was, I think I just wanted to have a discussion with you about, like, from your point of view, from your sort of more expert point of view, about your theories on the kind of fucking that goes on at the events, because you mentioned it was, and I can probably attest, it kind of is more of that sort of impactful, repetitive stuff. And yeah, I think you're probably a bit right. I wonder if people don't look. So we have separate spaces. So we started out with 2 spaces. We have the main play space, which is like the main DJs, which is where the dance floor is, all the performers and stuff like that. So it's sort of more upbeat and stuff like that. And then we have like our group space, which always has a different DJ, really moody lighting. I'm not sure if you got to be in there. Like, I think you mentioned that if you're in that space, you're kind of in it. You're either playing or you're watching. You can't, you're kind of in it or you're not, which is fine, because there's the capacity for people to, like, no one's going to be weirded out by being watched. That's what the group space is for, obviously. But that definitely has a different vibe. It's slower, it's more sensual, and the kind of shenanigans that go on there tend to be that more love-makey kind of sex.
Yeah, I thought that might have been the case, because I was like, I only really felt comfortable sitting on the couches kind of on the outside of the dome area, where it did seem like it was more brightly lit. There was more like group stuff going on, and very kind of impactful hard and fast sex. And I suspected maybe like the space that had like the 4-poster beds and the sheer kind of like fabric, and it was a lot dimmer in there, and, candles vibes. I didn't feel, I guess because I've never been to one, and I was like, I don't know if it's kosher. I know it's okay to kind of like watch, but maybe not just go and stand and like, there wasn't
there's no couches up there.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I could just organically like saunter by and maybe just pull up a cushion and whereas like with the other space, it was easier to kind of like be a bit of a voyeur. So I think I did say that to Hannah on the podcast. I was like, who knows, maybe there was a lot more sensuality and slower lovemaking going on, and I just didn't see it. I didn't have eyes everywhere at all times. But yeah, I don't know. I just assumed like the people that wanted to have sex in the more brightly lit space in that, yeah, maybe that was people like being watched and it's more visually intense if they're having that sort of sex that kind of looks like more mainstream porn. I don't know whether it's just the kind of expected standard and the sort of sex that they've always had or always seen in porn or at parties, and it's just kind of what's done. You know, it's also I wasn't sure how many of them were like existing couples or already knew each other or whether they'd just met. And obviously when you just meet someone for the first time and you haven't calibrated to how their body likes to be played with, and, you know, maybe you just default to like fucking and, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think also maybe if there was, I guess I see a little bit more, oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been to enough of these things. So maybe it's just because it was quite hetero in the play space that I was looking at the most. I don't know, because, you know, then there was also like really gorgeous, like very sensual shibari stuff going on and like, you know, the burlesque and yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if people save that kind of like intimate sort of lovemaking kind of thing for home as well. I wonder if it like it's one thing to be exposed in the way of people watching you fucking, but then it's much more, I think, vulnerable to have people watch you in a really and I suppose maybe it's harder to connect like really deeply with someone at a party. Just a theory. Obviously, I don't know.
No, totally. Like I'd say so. Like the only way I'm able to like really fully enjoy sex is if I'm able to be really present, and that's kind of why it's never really appealed to me to go to one of these spaces, because I don't know how I would manage to stay very present with the person I was with and in my own body amongst such a stimulating environment. And so probably like they're already so stimulated and it's also intense, and that's part of the appeal. And so then you're having this intense sex, it's really visually stimulating, and it's, you know, lots of like, I guess just, yeah, I keep saying the word intense, but like the intensity of it is part of what makes it hot for some people, and it is more difficult and perhaps not really why people go to engage with just their partner in a really intimate, like sensual, loving way, because you can just do that at home and it's easier to be present. And yeah, it is more vulnerable maybe. And so that's probably not really the MO of the people that are going. It's more about adding the element of the external, you know, there's this external environment, things going on. Yeah, totally.
That corny kind of fucking is quite theatrical, and it's
the more like exaggerated kind of external expression of sexuality, because the part of that is like you are being watched, and so you are kind of putting on a show in a way, and it is more kind of I think that must be, I think we're nailing it. I think that's probably a big part of it. Yeah. And maybe we can, you know, who knows, maybe if I have the Labia Lounge set up at one of these, I can ask people. I don't know if it would be suitable or not, but yeah, I would definitely love to find a way to kind of ask people some questions about why they go and what they enjoy about it and what they get out of it. And, you know, I guess it's just a whole world that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, I did kind of think, I don't really know how the Labia Lounge would fit into this.
Yeah. Well, there's two things on that. Like, number one, that like to, you know, what people do there is a lot of sex going on, right? It's like, it, you know, it takes a little while to get going, and then there's like little pockets of stuff going on everywhere, and there's this sensual shibari, and then there's like beds full of people, and then like, you know, quiet pockets where there's little beautiful things happening. But there's also a lot of people who go there with zero intention to have any kind of sexual contact with anyone, and I think it might be like generational as well. Like someone, I can't even remember who it was, like commented on one of our events, I think these young people just want to go and be beautiful and be with, not be beautiful, but you know what I mean, like their idea of beauty,
dress up,
dress themselves in the way that they like. and be around other people who are non-judging and, like expressing themselves in their way. And I think there is a lot of that as well. We sometimes have themes and we sometimes don't. It's a little bit hit and miss, but, like we've had a Matrix theme, like Matrix Triple X theme.
Yeah.
And the last one was Gothic, like you said, which some people are like, no. But, you don't have to dress the theme. This upcoming one in August is Ravish Me Red. So just like, like an all white party, but like an all red party.
Cool.
So like some people just like to dress up and express themselves and they do like there's like wild variations of how people present themselves, which is wonderful. So, that was the other thing. So the wristband system is new. We haven't done that before. We've talked about it before, but the boys from Senzuk, they kind of instigated that mostly with their room, but obviously it carried into the main party. We're thinking about doing like little buttons or something next. But the other thing from our point of view, obviously we have no interest in enforcing things, but you also want to know how to facilitate the most, like people to have the best experience you can. And that was one of the ways that, like these kind of parties have conceptualized, because how do you know whether someone that you want to be with, like someone who is the thing, does the thing that you want, wants to do the thing that you want to do. And so that like short of interviewing everyone and going, okay, who are you? What do you like? Let's find you somebody. There's got to be a way to like help people break the ice, and those wristbands were really helpful, because some of them just say like don't want to, not interested in anything, don't bother, which is wonderful in itself.
Yeah, I really loved that wristband system. I was impressed. I was like, oh, I want to take a photo of that poster, because I couldn't remember what the different categories were. I just remember hot makeouts and DTF. But I just think it's a really helpful way to create more of a culture around consent, and also it would make people feel a bit safer. Because like one thing I was like unsure of and found interesting is like I chatted with people there that I hadn't known previously. I bumped into some friends and I knew I knew where we stood, but then I was like having some nice chats with other people and being like, oh, but also we're at a sex party. So like, are they like, do they maybe want to engage in some way? And how would I know? Like, I'm so used to just being in regular social settings where if I'm having a nice chat with someone, I'm having a nice chat with someone, and that doesn't necessarily mean that, they're keen to fuck or they want to like play. But then if you're in this like setting of, you are at a play party where that is on the table potentially, I was like, oh shit, like I wonder how I would tell if like, do you know what I mean? And so I think the wristbands can be helpful for just clarifying some stuff for people without even needing, obviously you still need to have a conversation before anything happens, but it can prevent, if someone's not down to be approached at all, then the wristband will kind of be a safeguard for that. And then if someone, is open to something and someone who's keen on them's unsure, they can sort of see the wristband, oh, this person is potentially open to like engaging with someone in this way. And so now I'm going to approach them and like talk to them about that or whatever. So yeah, it's good. It's good because I think, even in these spaces where people are generally better at communicating about desires and boundaries, there's still often the need for a little bit of a helping hand because it's tough. It's tough
fear of
stuff to navigate.
rejection. Do I want to approach this person? Like, what if they're not interested in me? How would I know? It's nice to be able to kind of like make that easier for people in little ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
You asked, what things do I like? What do I want people to know about the event?
Yeah.
I suppose one of the reasons, or one of the things that I wanted to put forward in the party was, like there's always the playing, there's always the dancing, there's the drinking, if that's any of those things are your thing. But I suppose because I get bored easily, I also wanted a party to be an experience where you don't have to dance, you don't have to drink, you don't have to play, but there will still be something for you. And it's, so we have performers all night. We have several performers all night on different stages. We've got the Danish Blue pop-up shop, I don't know if you've heard of the Danish Blue, like adult stores. So they are in South Melbourne, St Kilda, and now just opened up in Richmond. So we've sort of partnered with them. They come and they do like really, really like discounted prices for our events.
Cool.
And they're wonderful. Their team's set up there, and you can buy like ready to play toys and things like that, and lingerie and stuff. Usually to theme, like they'll supply things that are kind of to theme. So if you need a little push, or if you don't want to bring your toys, because people can bring their own toys and whatever, but if you don't want to, you can pop up, like you can go in there, you can use something to use buy something to use immediately or to take home for another day. So you can do that. There's always these little, like, I call them kinky curiosities, like different displays and things like that. We have soft play spaces. We'll have like a couple of shibari frames. So if someone, if you are capable, you can set up, which I think is what you would have seen. So that was just, we set up the space, make it safe for them, and then people come and they do their thing. Because everyone wants an opportunity to do that, like perform for somebody or just for themselves or whatever they want, that space. They can do things like that. There's we just bought the projections. I don't know if you saw, we've got this guy who does these cool projections, which we've just started doing. Just like there's all of these things to see and do. It's like the whole thing is like a little adventure that you go on to just discover different things. It's not just about going and dancing and drinking.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. I've remembered. It is that I think the assumption is if you go to a sex party, you have to have sex and you're going to have sex. And maybe it used to be the case where if it was a smaller one, like in someone's house or whatever, for swingers, like that's a little bit more, you can probably assume that. But at these events, like something that I loved was it was so acceptable to just go and like hang out and have a drink or have a dance or chat with new people or hang out with your friends. Like I've literally I am now a huge proponent of just like, because I like catching up with friends in different environments. Like I'm definitely known to, all through winter, if I'm living in a house that has a good sized bath, friends will come over, any gender, and we're catching up in the bath, like I love like doing massage swaps or going to catch up in different environments because I don't really drink. And so for me, like that's not the main focus. And it was just really fucking cool to be in a social environment. And I said this on the other podcast, but yeah, to be in a social environment that was so uninhibited, so shame-free, so like, safe and judgment-free and sex positive. Like that's my jam. And it's so cool to, go to a place where there's no pressure to actually engage, but like the options there if you want to, and you can test some of your edges and you can explore some of your desires or like, just dip your toe in without having to go the whole hog. And meanwhile, have like a really fun catch up with some friends or like a dance or some interesting conversations. And like, that's fucking cool. It makes like regular ways that people go and party and catch up seem a little bit boring, because there's so many dimensions to this. And I think there was something very, very healing and liberating and refreshing about being in a social space with a lot of people. There was like 500 people or something, with all of
630.
Oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah,
congrats.
that was the other point that I was going to make, which is why there was the bit of a bottleneck getting in, because we grew so much from the last one to this one. And we have to reconceptualize how to get people in quicker, because you don't want to be standing out there waiting to come in and have fun. But yeah, 630 at the last one.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Congratulations. That's a massive achievement. That's fucking huge. Well, yeah, I mean, it was cool because it was exciting because, you like there to be like a good amount of new different people that you've never met or seen before. Like that appeals to me socially. And then just being somewhere where, all of me was welcome. People were very, seemed very comfortable in their bodies and their sexual expressions. That's like really rare, and you never usually get to see that outside of either the bedroom or like, for me, I've probably seen it more than most just because I've done a lot of like neo-tantra, sacred sexuality kind of workshops and retreats and trainings, and, I massage vaginas for a living. So obviously it's all very normal for me for nudity to be occurring and whatever. But like, yeah, it was interesting seeing it in a space that other than, you know, certain spaces where some sexy stuff was going on, it just seemed a bit like, you know, like a big party, a big club where people were kind of having fun and socializing, but then there was this whole other element. So that was really cool. And I've just been like, everyone should go. Everyone should just go. Like, I know you don't think it's your thing. I didn't think it was my thing. It doesn't even have to be. Like, just go, because it's like fun and it's a cool experience. And you know, I really believe in dismantling the shame and the stigma around sex and bodies, and authentic expression. And this is a pretty powerful way of doing that, you know, just immersing yourself in an environment where the norm and the default is to be sexually liberated and positive. Like, it's pretty rare to find a space like that. So I think that would be really beneficial to a lot of people, just to change their perspective and help them feel more comfortable.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion, though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later.
I think, like you said, just breaking down the barriers of nudity, like, you know, that you can see someone in all their beautiful form and just go, this is normal. How you want to dress, how you look, how you present yourself is normal. There shouldn't be any shame. It's so funny. A girl, you know, because we're always at the event, sort of making sure everything's going well. And a girl ran past me, and I grabbed her and I was like, "Oh, you just little nip slip happening." And she's like, "Oh, that's okay." And I kind of went, "Oh yeah, of course," because you're at a sex party in lingerie. That my interaction was to go, "Oh, girlfriend, come here," like. And she was like, "Oh no, that's all right." I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course it's all right, because you're at a sex party. It doesn't matter if your nipples are out."
Totally. It's so good for like deconditioning that like knee-jerk response we have in us, because like I had a similar kind of thing where like, yeah, I don't know, I'd see someone just on the dance floor like just being slightly more affectionate or touchy than maybe on just your average dance floor, and like there was this like split second where like it just glitched me out. I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah. And that's really cool, because it just showed me that there were like these kind of social rules and expectations that I abide by without even consciously noticing, you know, out in public and in regular venues, and you can just let them all drop here, which was cool, because then it sort of just rewired me for a bit. And yeah, amazing. Well, I feel like we've covered mostly everything I wanted to cover. Is there anything you wanted to like leave us with? Any parties coming up you want to promote? The Labia Lounge is so down to come and like be a part of it, but no pressure. Yeah, it's been awesome chatting though.
It has been wonderful. So we've got 2 upcoming parties, as well as the boudoir that we do at the Melbourne Pavilion. We also do play, which is more, it's smaller, so there's no BDSM kink room, though you can bring your own stuff and do what you like. And that's at the 3rd day in North Melbourne. So play is on Saturday, July 13th at the 3rd day. It's like a neon rave. It's more about the dancing and the playing. It's like really good music. We have all our events are Perania DJ crew do all of our events, and they are wonderful. They have some incredible DJs. So that's play, and then our next, the boudoir, which is the one that you went to, is on Friday, August 16th at the Melbourne Pavilion. Ravish Me Red is the theme. And so there's 30% off early bird tickets for both of them at the moment. Can't tell you when they end, but like soon. So if you want to get your tickets, get them now.
Amazing.
Basically, yeah. So we will have the Zenzuk room at the boudoir again, definitely. So we're actually gonna move it because people loved it, but it was too small. So they had moved from our main space. They've been with us from the beginning. They moved from our main space to their own little room within the venue, and people loved it, but it wasn't big enough. So we're giving them a bigger room. So they'll be back with more bigger, better, wonderful things. We'll still have our group play space. Yeah, I'd like to shout out the angels, who are just like, they're an ever-changing, growing group of humans. They are incredible. They are absolutely incredible. We could not do what we do without them. Shout out to the angels.
Beautiful.
And yeah, if people haven't been to a party before, all I can say is that we are welcoming, non-judgmental. Come check it out, and I'm sure there's something for everyone.
Amazing. Love it. Maybe I'll get a little Labia Lounge discount code or something, and I'll spruik the event for you if you like.
Sure.
Other than obviously this whole podcast about it, but yeah, I'm down. I'm an ambassador. I'm like, it's so funny because I've just always been so vanilla, and now I'm like, yeah. Thanks for being so open to chat and generous with your time and information about this. I think you're doing a great job in a really difficult space to actually do well. And yeah, if I'll put all the details for the events in the show notes, and that's a wrap, I reckon.
Thank you so much, Freya. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
And that's it, darling hearts. Thanks for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. If you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that's a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism, and you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. I'm also always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, questions or guest suggestions, so feel free to get in touch via my website or over on Insta. You can also send me in TMI stories to be shared anonymously on the pod. My handle is FreyaGraf_the Labia Lounge, if my account hasn't been deleted for being too sex positive, which, is always a possibility with censorship. But just in case the chronic censorship finally does obliterate my social channels, I'd highly recommend going and joining my mailing list and snagging yourself some fun freebies for the trouble at www.freyagraf.com/freebies. Anyway, later, labial legends. See you next time.